Tanya Plibersek, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
What have you made of the conference, the AUKUS debate in particular?
I think it's been a terrific conference, and the wonderful thing about Labor Party conferences is they're so open, so transparent. We've got journalists, we've got observers, we're broadcasting. That's unlike any other political party in Australia. I love it, the fact that we've got 400 delegates from all over Australia able to participate in the debate, able to make their point, showing up for democracy. It's great.
The PM had a reasonable win on AUKUS, didn't he?
Oh, I think it was a really good, healthy debate. And this is a huge program, talking about $360 billion over coming decades, 20,000 direct jobs here in Australia, enormous benefits for technology transfer, for the skilling of our workforce. It's an important issue for the future of our country, and the fact that Labor Party members want to debate it, that's a good thing, that's healthy.
Well, the party does seem a bit restless on the centrist approach the government has taken. I wonder if a young Tanya Plibersek from the left would have been a bit restless.
Oh, no, I don't.
This is what's required for Labor to win elections. I mean, you've been on both sides of that, haven't you?
I think Labor is firmly a party of the centre. We are firmly a party that wants to govern for the majority of Australians. That's a good thing.
Now, you've been taking questions in the House around cultural heritage laws, not surprising given the WA government's back down on theirs. How is what you're looking at different to what WA was looking at?
Well, we've got the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Heritage Protection Act at a federal level, which is a sort of backstop legislation. States and territories have primary responsibility for protecting cultural heritage in their jurisdiction. What we learned after the destruction of Juukan Gorge is neither the state laws nor Commonwealth laws protected those 46,000-year-old places from destruction. So there were two Juukan Gorge inquiries led by Warren Entsch and Senator Dodson. They made a number of recommendations about how we can strengthen Commonwealth protections. When Susan Ley was the Environment Minister, she contracted the First Nations Heritage Protection Alliance to work with the government to design some changes that could improve protections, and we're continuing with that process.
So what sort of changes are they?
Well, we're doing that in
the legislation.
We're in no hurry. We want to get this right. This is complex work, as you saw in WA. It's complex work. We want to make sure we get it right. The process that we're engaged in with the First Nations Heritage Protection Alliance is the process begun by Susan Ley. We'll just continue on with that. We'll make sure we get it right. There's no point in hurrying something and having to fix it later.
Is it being deliberately delayed because of the voice?
No, of course not. This is complex work, and it requires a great deal of thoughtful consultation with First Nations communities around the country, but also with businesses and other project proponents to make sure that we get it right.
Can you put a time frame on it then?
Well, we're not hurrying it. There's no benefit to hurrying it. We know that the mining sector in particular, I've had great conversations with some of the big mining companies. They want to see stronger cultural heritage protections as well, because it was really damaging for their reputation internationally to see the destruction of 46,000-year-old places like those at Juukan Gorge that had such significance for all Australians and international significance. I mean, this is like, imagine blowing up the pyramids, or how shocked people were when the Taliban were blowing up those Buddha sculptures. This is the equivalent criticism from countries around the world when Australia legally blows up 46,000-year-old sacred sites. That's not good for us, not good for our international reputation.
Voice is having a troubled time if you believe the polls. Is there any chance in your mind the referendum will succeed?
I very strongly hope and believe that the referendum can succeed. It's never easy winning referendums, especially if you don't have bipartisan support. But I'll continue to campaign strongly for a voice. So this is a committee that can give advice to the Parliament so that we get better results for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We know that what we've been doing now hasn't worked. We've got big gaps in life expectancy, in employment, in education outcomes, in health outcomes. And so listening to the people who are most affected by government policies, listening to what would make a difference in their lives, just makes sense. It's a way of making sure we get value for money for government spending. This is what Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people have asked for. It's got the support of the majority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and I see it in my own community in Redfern. We had the first Aboriginal medical service, the first Aboriginal legal service, we've got Aboriginal aged care, and you know, when we had troubles with youth crime in Redfern, what fixed it was Aboriginal leaders in our community, people like Shane Phillips, going to the Redfern Police Command, to, at that time the guy who was running it was Luke Freudenstein, and they worked together to get the kids doing boxing and training before school, making sure the kids got to school, making sure that they were kept active and engaged. That's what worked in our community. Aboriginal leadership, identifying a solution and being empowered to deliver that solution. I want to see that for the whole country.
Could the government have sold it better, the voice?
I think it's really important to continue to have one-on-one conversations. People don't really care what I think as a member for Sydney. What they listen to is what their friends and neighbours and work colleagues are saying, and we need to make sure that those people who want to see better results for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, who want to see the gaps close, are empowered with the arguments to talk to their friends and neighbours.
What do you make of the coalition's nuclear power push?
Oh, I think it's nonsense. I think it's... Look, they've just had 10 years in government. If they thought nuclear power was a goer, they had any time in that 10 years to come up with a plan that would tell us where the 80 nuclear reactors are going to go, how much they're going to cost, who's going to build them. Is a private company going to build them, or is the government going to pay for this? We know it's the most expensive form of energy on the planet. We've got enormous resources, wind, solar, hydro. We're building that right now. I've doubled the number of renewable energy approvals compared with the previous government. That is underway right now. Nuclear power, if it ever happened, is a decade or decades away. It's super expensive. The coalition's got no details. I just think it's false hope, and expensive false hope at that.
Just finally, you're still very popular with the rank and file. We're at National Conference here. Do you still have a leadership baton in your knapsack, or has that time passed you by?
What a ridiculous question at a time like this. We are a government fully focused on delivering for the Australian people. I love the environment portfolio. It's wonderful to have the opportunity of better protecting nature, protecting more of what's precious, restoring more of what's been damaged, managing nature better for the future. That's my 100% focus.
Tanya Plibersek, thanks for your time.
Thank you.